Hall of Famer Hulk Hogan has passed away. He's one of pop culture's most recognizable figures. Hogan helped WWE achieve global recognition in the 80s.
When Hulk Hogan died on July 24, 2025, the world lost a legend. But his family lost something even deeper. They gathered to say goodbye to the man who slammed giants, broke ratings, and became America's hero. But behind closed doors, they opened something else. His final will. What they found inside made the room fall silent. Sky Daly, the wife of just 3 years, inherited nearly everything. Brooke Hogan got a symbolic share. But Nick Hogan, his only son, was left with nothing. No letter, no goodbye. Just a name missing on the page. The day Hulk Hogan died on July 24, 2025, around 7:16 a.m., emergency responders rushed to Hulk Hogan's Clearwater mansion after Sky Daly, his second wife, dialed 911 reporting that Hogan had collapsed during a light training session. Paramedics arrived to find Terry Bollea unresponsive. He was rushed to Morton Plant Hospital, but just 30 minutes later, doctors pronounced him dead of cardiac arrest. He was 75. Though no foul play was suspected, questions linger. Friends say Hogan had been ignoring symptoms for weeks: shortness of breath, leg swelling, and unusual fatigue. His wife begged him to see a doctor, but Hogan, ever the fighter, refused. The WWE released a statement within 1 hour, calling him the foundation of modern professional wrestling. The world paused. Flags at WWE headquarters in Stamford, Connecticut, flew at half-mast. Wrestlers posted tributes. Fans flooded his beach shop in Clearwater, placing flowers and "Real American" signs outside the shuttered door. He was more than a man. He was myth in motion. Vince McMahon. While the wrestling world mourned the sudden loss, many were left wondering what really caused the untimely death of a man once called immortal. A deeper look into Hogan's finances, choices, and lifestyle revealed another layer of tragedy. Behind the screaming fans and slamming fists was a man who gained the world and lost almost all of it. Hulk Hogan's fortune. In the 1980s, Hulk Hogan was one of the highest-paid entertainers in the U.S. His net worth once soared above $100 million, fueled by WrestleMania headliners, Saturday morning cartoons, and endless merchandising. But at the time of his death, Hogan's estate had shrunk to around $25 million. A big blow came in 2009 when his divorce from Linda Hogan finalized. She walked away with 70% of their assets, including the 10 Olympian mansion in Bel Air and large stakes in Hogan's merchandise revenue. Another twist came in 2016 when Hogan won a $115 million lawsuit against Gawker Media after they leaked his sex tape. But the court awarded Peter Thiel, who funded the case, a significant share, and legal fees consumed the rest. Hogan received just over $25 million, according to court records. Despite smaller brand deals and royalties, Hogan maintained a lavish lifestyle: luxury cars, private jets, and expensive rehab sessions. The will he left behind shocked his family. Sky Daly received the largest portion, while Nick and Brooke were left with less than they expected. Money was never the goal. It was the power of the people's love. Hulk Hogan. Fame and fortune might fade, but legends live through legacy. Before Hulk Hogan was a global icon, he was Terry Bollea, a kid from Tampa with a dream and a guitar. To understand the full weight of his journey, we must go back to the beginning. Before WrestleMania, before the scandals, and before the spotlight that never let him go. How Terry Bollea became Hulk Hogan. Born on August 11, 1953, Terry Bollea was a music-loving kid from Tampa who studied at Hillsborough Community College and played bass in local rock bands. But everything changed in 1976 when he was discovered by wrestler Hiro Matsuda, who broke his leg during their first training session to test his toughness. Bollea returned, healed, and passed. By 1980, he was working for AWA, and in 1984, Vince McMahon signed him to WWF, rebranding him as Hulk Hogan after comparing his frame to Lou Ferrigno's Hulk. He made history at WrestleMania 1985, teaming with Mr. T in Madison Square Garden. Kids adored him. Parents trusted him. With his iconic yellow tights, Real American theme, and catchphrases like "Say your prayers and eat your vitamins," Hogan became more than a wrestler. He became a national symbol. Hogan's 1987 match at WrestleMania 3, where he body-slammed Andre the Giant in front of 93,000 fans, is still one of the most replayed wrestling moments in history. That night, I didn't just slam Andre, I lifted the world's hopes. Hogan, WWE Hall of Fame speech. But even legends fall. For Hogan, the golden glow of Hulkamania would eventually fade. He was a hero in the 80s, but in the 90s, he chose to become the villain. That turn would not only reinvent his career, but would foreshadow the inner demons that began to surface. The rise and fall of Hulk Hogan's wrestling kingdom. In 1993, Hulk Hogan left WWF after nearly a decade of dominance. By 1996, he shocked fans again, this time by walking into WCW and turning heel. Gone was the hero in red and yellow. Hollywood Hogan, dressed in black, sneering under dark sunglasses, formed the NWO, New World Order, with Kevin Nash and Scott Hall. The move paid off. WCW beat WWF in the Monday Night Wars for 83 consecutive weeks. Hogan became wrestling's most hated villain and most watched figure all over again. But the peak couldn't last forever. On January 4th, 1999, the infamous Finger Poke of Doom aired live. A fake fight between Hogan and Nash exposed the business and began WCW's fall. Viewership crashed. Fans turned away. By 2002, Hogan returned to WWE for a dream match with The Rock at WrestleMania X8, the Icon vs. Icon bout. It was emotional, powerful, and arguably his last great in-ring performance. He drifted into TNA in the 2010s, but never recaptured the same magic. Quote, "The fans turned me, brother, but in the end, they forgave me too." Hogan on his NWO turn, 2003. But not every mistake gets forgiven. What came next would shatter his reputation, break trust with fans, and nearly erase him from wrestling history. It wasn't an in-ring botch, a failed gimmick, or a business loss. It was something far more human and far more devastating. The racist rant that nearly destroyed his legacy. In 2015, private recordings from 2007 surfaced, where Hulk Hogan, then off-camera, used racial slurs while discussing his daughter's relationships. The leak, part of the infamous sex tape scandal, sent shockwaves through media and the wrestling world. Within 24 hours, WWE scrubbed all mentions of Hogan. He was erased from the Hall of Fame, removed from merchandise, video archives, and even edited out of old pay-per-views. The man who built wrestling's empire had been cast out of it. Hogan issued multiple apologies, but they rang hollow for many. Superstars like Titus O'Neil and Kofi Kingston said his comeback lacked sincerity and refused to shake his hand backstage. While some fans defended him, others never forgot. His once universal popularity fractured, especially among younger fans and wrestlers of color. For years, Hogan remained in exile. I'm not asking for forgiveness, I'm asking for a second chance to be better. Hogan, 2018. Redemption would come slowly, if at all. But through it all, one part of his life remained constant: family, or at least what was left of it. Fame made Hogan a legend, but fame also tested the very people who loved him. From reality TV to real-world breakdowns, Hogan's family life was just as dramatic as any match. Hogan knows best. In 2005, Hogan invited America into his home with Hogan Knows Best, a VH1 reality series that pulled back the curtain on his family. It featured his wife Linda, daughter Brooke, and son Nick. At first, fans saw a wholesome, if eccentric, family, but it wouldn't stay that way for long. By 2007, cracks had formed. Linda filed for divorce after 26 years of marriage, accusing Hogan of infidelity and control. The divorce was messy, filled with court drama, public fighting, and tabloid leaks. Then came tragedy. In 2007, Nick Hogan was involved in a street racing accident that left his passenger, John Graziano, with permanent brain damage. The incident devastated the family and permanently changed Nick's public image. Brooke attempted a music career with her show, Brooke Knows Best, but fame faded fast. Meanwhile, Hulk found solace with Sky Daily, a quiet yoga instructor he married in 2022. She stayed with him until the end. Quote, "It's easy being a hero to fans. It's hard being a father at home." Hogan, People Magazine, 2010. Outside the ring, his life was spiraling. But inside pop culture, Hogan still held power. He was more than just a wrestler. He was an action figure, a cartoon, a song, a meme before memes existed. His impact went beyond the squared circle and left marks on every screen in America. A cultural titan. By the late 1980s, Hulk Hogan wasn't just a wrestler. He was a marketing machine. CBS launched Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestling in 1985, a Saturday morning cartoon where the animated Hogan fought villains and spread Hulkamania to children nationwide. The show ran for 2 seasons, but its cultural impact lasted far longer. His voice and face showed up everywhere, from the Grammy Awards with Cyndi Lauper to acting gigs in Rocky III and Mr. Nanny. He became one of the first wrestlers to host Saturday Night Live, 1985, blurring the line between sports and entertainment. By 1990, Hogan action figures had sold in the millions, with WWE estimating that 1 in 5 American boys under 13 owned a Hulk Hogan product. His iconic theme song, Real American, played in arenas, parades, and even political rallies. But Hogan's status as a pop icon also made him vulnerable to parody. From Robot Chicken to South Park, he was both celebrated and caricatured. Yet, no matter how mocked, his status remained untouchable for generations. I wasn't just in your living room, I was on your lunchbox, your TV, your cereal. I was America, Hulk Hogan, 2016. But the man who once symbolized freedom, strength, and showmanship didn't exist in a vacuum. Like his character, Hulk Hogan was drawn to power, and power recognized him. His connection with one of the most controversial American figures of the 21st century, Donald Trump, would take center stage again in his final year, cementing Hogan's place in a deeply divided cultural legacy. The Trump connection. The alliance between Hulk Hogan and Donald Trump began decades ago. Trump hosted WrestleMania 4 and V at Trump Plaza. But in 2024, their bond returned to headlines when Hogan made a surprise appearance at the Republican National Convention, delivering a fiery speech that ended with a trademark shirt rip, drawing both cheers and criticism. Just weeks for the attempted assassination of Donald Trump in July 2024, Hogan called him the toughest SOB I've ever known. He endorsed Trump and J.D. Vance, saying they represented the same fight he brought to the ring. This was no pivot. Hogan had embraced MAGA politics for years. In 2008, he supported Obama. But by 2016, he had publicly flipped, wearing Trump 2020 hats and sharing endorsements on Truth Social. After Hogan's death in July 2025, Trump posted, "He was tough, smart, loyal, and had the biggest heart in the world. Hulk Hogan was America." But not all fans agreed. The politics of Hulkamania became divisive. Some fans walked away. Others embraced him harder. The man who once united generations under red and yellow had become a symbol of culture war. "He stood by me when few would. Hulk was the real deal." Donald Trump, 2005. As Hulk Hogan leaned deeper into politics and controversy, his past also returned to haunt him in courts and tabloids. Every era of his fame seemed to carry a lawsuit, a scandal, or a battle for control. By the time he died, Hogan's story wasn't just one of wrestling. It was a complex saga of media, power, and the personal cost of never turning off the spotlight. Controversy, courtrooms, and the cost of fame. In 1994, Hulk Hogan testified during the federal steroid trial against WWE owner Vince McMahon, admitting he had used anabolic steroids, shocking millions. Though McMahon was acquitted, Hogan's clean image began to crack. That crack became a collapse in 2016, when he won the famous Gawker lawsuit over a leaked sex tape. The Florida jury awarded him $115 million in damages and an extra $25 million in punitive damages. Gawker Media declared bankruptcy. The twist? The case had been secretly bankrolled by Peter Thiel, a billionaire seeking revenge against Gawker. Though Hogan celebrated publicly, court filings later revealed he only took home around $25 million after fees. But the damage had been done. By 2018, his public image was battered, and there were other suits. A defamation case from a former friend, a battle over unpaid debts from failed business ventures, interview blunders, poorly timed jokes. It all piled on. In the final years, Hogan became a cautionary tale of fame unfiltered, of privacy destroyed, of power bought and lost. The man who once held the world in a headlock now seemed to carry it on his shoulders. If I could go back to being Terry, I would. But Terry can't unbecome Hogan. Hogan 2022 Podcast. Even with the pain, lawsuits, and broken public image, there was something left. Something that neither courtrooms nor controversies could erase. Hogan's family, his fans, and even those he hurt gathered after his passing. And when the final will was opened, it sparked tears, confusion, and one last headline that made everyone stop scrolling and start remembering. The legacy that made his family cry. When the will of Terry Bollea, better known as Hulk Hogan, was opened on July 6, 2025, just 2 days after his death, those close to him expected the usual formalities. But what followed shocked even his inner circle. The estate, estimated at $25 million, was not evenly distributed. In fact, parts of it went to people most didn't expect. Sky Daly, his second wife of just 3 years, received the Clearwater estate, liquid savings, and Hogan's private memorabilia collection. Brooke Hogan, his daughter, inherited a portion of merchandising royalties and control over licensing his name. But notably, Nick Hogan, his son, was left out entirely. No explanation. Just silence in ink. Nick, already estranged from his father. After the 2007 street racing crash reportedly broke down upon hearing the news, friends say he wept, saying, "I thought he'd at least say goodbye." Whether the exclusion was legal or emotional, the wound reopened an old family scar. In a private ceremony held on July 9, 2025, Brooke played a song she'd written just weeks earlier titled "Immortal." The lyrics, "You slammed the world, but it slammed you too," brought the entire room to tears. Hogan's body was cremated, his ashes scattered near Sand Key Beach, the place he called his soul's home. Across the world, murals, statues, and tribute shows sprang up in Tokyo, London, New York, and Madison Square Garden. WWE announced a permanent Hogan Memorial Wing at their Hall of Fame, set to open in 2026. But perhaps the most haunting symbol was left at his beach shop, a hand-painted sign by a child that simply read, "Hogan lives forever." Because in death, the man who once demanded we eat our vitamins and say our prayers had achieved what he always promised us, immortality. Terry Bollea died, but Hulk Hogan will never die, brother. Brooke Hogan, 2025. From thunderous arenas to quiet hospital rooms, from wealth to loss, and from hero to headline, Hulk Hogan's life was as loud, raw, and unforgettable as any match he ever wrestled. He wasn't perfect. He wasn't always right. But he was real. And in his own mythic way, he became larger than life, and somehow more human because of it. The man behind the mustache left the stage, but the echo of, "What you gonna do, brother?" will never stop ringing. In the end, Terry Bollea didn't just leave behind a fortune. He left behind questions, wounds, and silence. The man who once stood in packed arenas with the crowd chanting his name died with his family divided. Sky Daily, loyal until the end, now holds the keys to his empire. Brooke Hogan, the daughter who once shared the spotlight, received enough to carry on his brand, but little more. And Nick, the son who bore his name, was cut out completely. Maybe it was about the past. Maybe it was about redemption. Or maybe, as one insider whispered, he just couldn't find the words. But whatever the reason, the will spoke loudly. The world may remember Hulk Hogan as immortal, unstoppable, the hero in red and yellow. But for those left behind, he was also Terry, a man who made mistakes, loved imperfectly, and, in his final act, left behind a mystery wrapped in heartbreak. Because sometimes, legacies don't end with gold belts or roaring crowds. Sometimes they end with a lawyer, a signature, and a silence that never really goes away.